Bischoff gently rubbed his chin in thought, but did those words mean he wanted to give up on his son? Shirone could no longer listen. Overwhelmed with emotion, he grabbed his father's arm tightly and shouted, "Father, what are you doing? How can you say that without warning me?" Now he only avoided his gaze, saying, "I'm sorry, but you are grown now. You need to understand." Suddenly, Shirone seriously questioned, "Do you really think I don't know?" Those words shocked Vincent deeply. His mood grew heavy, struggling to say, "The reason I didn't ask you is because people only have one father and one mother, and I want it that way too. But now you want me to have 6 parents?" He panicked, fear and sorrow making his voice tremble. "I just don't want you to give up on your dreams because of me." Tears began to fall. Shirone decisively shouted loudly, "Who's giving up on dreams? As long as I try, the opportunity will come." But he was heartbroken, sobbing as he looked at his father and asked, "Have you ever thought about how I feel? Who wants to be abandoned by their parents twice?" Vincent grasped Shirone's hand tightly, trembling uncontrollably. "It's just what I did. It was all Shirone's father's fault. He would never abandon his son." Then he hugged his little son tightly as if afraid to lose him. Words of love poured out like a stream. Vincent sobbed, begging, "Please forgive this foolish father. You are everything to me." Then they held each other tightly, expressing their heartfelt emotions. Those around them fell silent, witnessing the sacred and beautiful bond of family love. Bischoff, seeing this scene, truly realized one thing: what we do to our children can cause them pain. Klump replied, "Being a parent is indeed very difficult." He asked, "Isn't it hard for you too, raising your child alone?" Bischoff, with tears welling up, tried to hide them so no one would see. He quietly shifted his gaze to his son ahead. Rian was also crying, moved by the deep affection between Vincent and Shirone. Suddenly, Bischoff said, "I heard that at the Alpheus Magic Academy there is a special consideration category. The father might be able to help." Klump wondered, "Huh? What can this old man do? How could I possibly convince that stubborn Alpheus?" He said, "Is that really impossible?" "I heard he owes you a favor." Klump laughed upon hearing that. "Ah, for someone who follows every rule, being stubborn is probably the best method." Bischoff chuckled too. He said, "I use that method to force you to take control as well." Klump responded with some avoidance. "It's all for your own good." 3 days later, after Rian arrived at the Sword Academy, the head of the family allowed my family to stay in Ocean. Father still feels guilty toward me. I wonder when he'll remember this time. Finally, Rian and I had time together, both taking the chance to sleep side by side. He looked very happy, smiling delightedly at the friend beside him. Hearing his stories, I also laughed out loud, amused and joyful. Then, 3 days later, the two of us would have to leave home to go to the academy, the place where our dreams would come true. Shirone gently turned his head to look a little longer, when suddenly someone was sobbing loudly. It was Rian crying uncontrollably. He spoke up, "Rian, don't cry." The boy painfully replied, "How could I not cry? Once we get on the carriage, we have to go to the Sword Academy. We really have to say goodbye." The more he spoke, the louder he cried. "Why can't I start school next year like you?" Shirone answered, "I'm not even sure if I'll be accepted under the special consideration category. We can still meet during the holidays. Just remember to write letters every day." Suddenly, Rian put his hand on his shoulder and firmly called out his name. "Shirone, give it your all. You have to become a mage. I will become the strongest knight to protect you. I promise." Before he could finish, Reina punched him sharply on the head. "Focus on graduating first. I worry about you the most." Then she turned to Shirone and said, "Don't worry, just enjoy time with your family first." "He will definitely help you get admitted." He softly replied, "I will get in." "Thank you for helping me," he said, placing his hand on his chest, expressing deep gratitude. Reina smiled, thinking to herself, "What a strange child. At first, I thought he was just a cute boy, but he's also very thoughtful, able to hold on to his faith in such a frightening situation." Suddenly she looked toward him and said, "Shirone, maybe when you graduate." But then she fell silent, lost in thought. She thought, what am I thinking? He's a child about to live in a completely new environment, the Magic Academy. Then Reina stepped forward, placed her hand on his shoulder, and said, "No, just do your best." "You will definitely become a mage," he replied. "Please take care of Rian." Then she helped Rian into the carriage and waved goodbye to Shirone. He got into the other carriage, where his parents were already seated, feeling excited and full of anticipation. The horses began to move, the two carriages running in opposite directions, gradually drifting apart. Sitting inside, he suddenly heard a loud voice calling from outside, "Shirone!" He immediately stuck his head out to see who was calling. It was Rian Augent, shouting toward him, "When you get to the Magic Academy, remember to surpass them." Hearing this, he laughed out loud. Then Shirone Ariane shouted back loudly, "You too." And that was the meeting of two passionate young men, remembered as the beginning of the event that would shatter the balance of the entire continent. Below the roadside, a nest of fledglings watched as their mother bird landed nearby, then took off, soaring over grand castles with solemn architecture. This was the Alpheus Magic Academy. A man set a teacup down on the table. It was Clump, who smiled wearily and said, "I've been thinking for 30 minutes already. The answer must be yes, right?" Alpheus replied, "Though we've been good friends for 50 years, I really cannot accept your proposal." Clump shouted with frustration, "What did you say?" "Do you know how much I struggled because of you when I was young?" Alpheus said. "It seems this is quite important, which is why you had to say those shocking words." But the special consideration category wasn't an open door for nobles. Every year, many requests were sent in, but this category had its own strict criteria. The more he listened, the more irritated he became, silently cursing, "That cunning old man, making me wait 30 minutes for nothing." Then Clump laughed. "This time it's different." Seemed a bit surprised. "This must be important. It's been a long time since I've seen that expression on him." Clump laughed loudly and continued, "I never told him to accept a useless kid. It has to be the opposite. The boy is a friend of my youngest grandson, and he's very talented. Do you know what I thought when I met him?" He said seriously, "I thought I was looking at you when you were young." Alpheus took a sip of tea, then put the cup down, doubtful. "If he's that talented, why didn't he enroll normally?" "That would mean there's a problem," Clump explained gravely. "Yes, that's a big problem. He's not a noble." Hearing that, Alpheus exclaimed, startled, "Impossible." Then Alpheus described Shirone's exact appearance. A child with blonde hair and blue eyes. Clump remembered Shirone's earlier words, "Even if I lose my life, I won't regret becoming your friend." He remarked, "That was my first strong impression of him." He continued seriously, "I once thought he was a clever child who knew how to influence adults. However, when I offered to adopt him, he responded like this: 'If I'm now told to abandon my origins, it's like being told to seek death.'" Just recalling that made Clump cover his face and laugh loudly. He said, "Does that make sense? Who would refuse to become a noble?" Alpheus gently stroked his beard and said, "He understands the natural law of cause and effect." Clump replied, "Exactly. Without a cause, there's no effect. But not everyone understands this law, and many easily lose themselves. A new opportunity can come at any moment, but the moment someone rejects their roots, they lose. They can no longer decide what they believe is right. Does that remind you of yourself when you were young?" Alpheus remained silent. After a long pause, he said, "Their unwillingness to compromise means others may agree with what they believe is right, but those others can also judge them. That's what I find dangerous." Clump, sitting beside him, clicked his tongue. Then he softly asked, "You still haven't forgiven yourself, right? You've done all you could. You've trained many talents. Isn't it time to forgive yourself?" He laughed, saying, "I should forgive myself, but don't be too arrogant about it, my friend." Alpheus looked out the window and confided, "The reason I teach children is to prevent someone like me from appearing again." With a sorrowful expression, he continued, "If that child is, as you say, like me, There's no guarantee he won't tread the terrible path I once did, right? Clump responded, "You were once a genius, Alpheus, a once-in-a-century genius." He added, "You, who were considered the light of your family, walked the wrong path once and nearly lost everything, but ultimately returned. Of course, who would have thought you'd become the principal of an academy in such a remote place?" Alpheus teased Clump, "Well, that means heaven must have helped you. An incompetent kid becoming an official third-rank swordsman, I worry about the future of the Tomia kingdom." Then both of them laughed heartily. Suddenly, Alpheus stood up abruptly and walked to the window to gaze at his school. Without a cause, there is no effect. As Clump poured more tea into his cup, he said, "Is this fate? Who would have thought you knew that boy? The child who was cast out 4 years ago has now returned." He laughed aloud. "I don't believe in fate," but thought to himself. Meanwhile, Alpheus thought of Shirone talent buried by high-level barriers, wandering for 4 years and now standing before me. Is this really fate? Finally, he decisively announced, "I will accept Shirone." In spring, 3 years later, a carriage arrived at a small house deep in the forest. Shirone had finished preparing from his hair to his clothes, then called out loudly, "Mother, father." Shirone Ariane was 17 this year. He smiled excitedly. "I will come back soon." Shirone's mother hugged him tightly, praising without end, "My beloved child, I will miss you so much." He promised, "I will write often, but does my hair look good? I've never had my hair like this before, so it feels strange." She replied, "Miss Reina said that short hair is fashionable among the nobles. Just leave it as it is." Vincent cleared his throat a few times, a bit embarrassed, and said, "Did you forget something?" Shirone waved his hand. "Father, I'm 17 now. Kissing is a bit," he firmly answered. "Hey, if you won't do it, then let me," he shouted loudly. Vincent gently placed a kiss on his little son's forehead, full of boundless love. Then he softly hugged him, expressing the feelings of a father. "Shirone, I'm proud of you." He also deeply enjoyed this warm feeling. Shirone then asked, "But is it really okay?" The head of the family also said he would give me a house. Vincent seriously replied, "My goodness, you really are. Father, you are a hunter, right? The home of a hunter is the forest and the fields." He was startled, thinking silently, "That's true." As he saw him off to the carriage, he said, "Even if I refuse the subsidies the Augent family offers you, they insist on giving them sincerely." Shirone thought to himself, "This is a joyful day because I'm about to enter the Magic Academy." But his father still didn't tell anyone. He was sure the reason his father refused to live in the city was because he didn't want to become a threat to him. Timoran was waiting outside and respectfully said, "Please get in the carriage. We will escort you to the academy." Shirone stepped onto the carriage, then stuck his head out the window and sang loudly, "I will come back soon." And that's how my first day at the academy began, the carriage slowly fading into the distance. Behind were his parents, seeing off their child who was learning to grow up and pursue his dreams. Inside the carriage were only Shirone and Timoran, making the atmosphere very awkward. Upon arrival, Timoran took the initiative to open the door and called out to him, "Young master, we have arrived." Shirone stepped down, his face showing surprise and awe. Timoran continued, "At the Alpheus Mage School, the place is bustling with people now, making the whole area lively. The school gate is tall, grand, and looks very elegant." Timoran said, "The cost of study materials will be covered by me, young master. You just need to focus on your studies." Shirone was deeply grateful and said, "Thank you, steward escort," he replied seriously. "I'm just doing my job." Shirone bowed his head slightly, expressing his sincerest feelings. "Now I finally have the chance to thank him. I could come here because of his help. I will never forget your kindness," he said with a smile, speaking the words he had always held in his heart. Suddenly, a statement startled Shirone. No matter how talented a commoner is, they will always remain a commoner and can never surpass a noble. Opposite him was Timoran's stern, darkened face. But then he finished his thought. However, not everyone is given this opportunity. After you enroll, many nobles will dislike you, he smiled as he advised, but you must persevere. If you can endure until the end, everything will pass. Shirone replied with emotion, thank you. I will definitely become a mage. Timiran replied, now, if you're ready, follow me. We need to register you for enrollment first. And so, the two of them walked deeper into the academy. He thought to himself, Alpheus Mage School, known as the Cradle of Geniuses, what will I learn here? And who will I meet? Inside, the guards spoke in unison, we will serve with all our might. On the school grounds were people coming to pursue their dreams, just like Shirone. After completing the procedures, Timiran instructed, I'm leaving now. If you need anything, feel free to contact me, Shirone replied. Yes, thank you very much. But then he looked around, wondering silently, who will come to pick me up? Should I take a walk in the forest while I wait? Suddenly, he noticed many long boards posted on the wall. Alpheus Mage School operated on a 10-rank system with a total of 420 students. Among them, 30 were in the graduation class. Each year, the number of graduating students is, Shirone was startled and widened his eyes only 10. Suddenly, someone approached and said, so, you must be Shirone? Hearing that, he immediately turned around and bowed respectfully. Hello, principal. Alpheus laughed and said, we've met before. Do you still remember me? He replied, thank you very much for that time. The old man then patted his back and said, it's all good. We can talk more slowly while we walk. Alpheus announced, you will have to take an entrance exam. Shirone felt blank, having never studied at all. An exam? I don't know anything. The old man reassured him. Don't worry, it's just a simple test to place you in a class. Timiran asked, can you penetrate your spirit realm? He replied, yes, sir. The old man was very impressed. Oh, that's really impressive. He thought to himself, who knows if he can open his spirit realm by himself? If I had started training him when he was young, that would have been great. I failed to spot talent right in front of me. Though it's late, I need to teach him the basics first. The entrance exam hall will be full of 10-year-olds, so if he arrives early, he'll be embarrassed. So he suggested, do you want to take a walk around the school? The two of them entered another area where a young boy was reading 3 books floating above his hand. As the boy passed by, Shirone noticed, something strange just went past me. He stammered, principal, Alpheus introduced. This is the classroom where students study. He looked up in awe. It was the freshman class, grade 18, the introductory course. Many children were flying above, using magic. He stood there stunned below, while the children happily passed books and played together. Some gathered to play games and eat snacks. Shirone looked around excitedly and exclaimed, everyone is using magic. Alpheus said, that's right, but the place we need to go to is a little different. They continued to the advanced class, the 74th grade. It was very quiet there. Everyone studied seriously without joking around. Shirone silently noted the different atmosphere, as those around him were all his age, engaged in lively discussions. A black-haired young man spoke up. A large amount of magical power can lower the air temperature below the frost point. Wouldn't freezing the coolant be more effective? Anyway, the reactions happen faster. What about this? If we adjust the timing instead of the magical power. Shirone was startled, almost wanting to scream, what? He painfully realized one thing. Why couldn't he understand what they were saying even though they spoke the same language? Suddenly, there was a loud explosion behind him. A girl emerged from the smoke coughing, and upon seeing Alpheus, quickly bowed. Ah, hello, principal. He smiled and said, all right, it seems there really is a problem. The red-haired girl wearing glasses replied, yes, sir. I was experimenting with some sound amplification, but it malfunctioned. Shirone wondered silently. Don't they care? Alpheus commented, it seems there's some imbalance between input and output. Check if the current is balanced. She eagerly gave a thumbs up. Thank you, principal. I'll fix it. He was very surprised the principal didn't stop her, and she planned to try again. Shirone looked around with a dazed and astonished expression, as if he were in another world. As they continued the tour, a girl with long, flowing red hair passed by. That was Amy, a beautiful young woman who captivated the hearts of the boys nearby, leaving them mesmerized. They then proceeded to another room where something caught Shirone's attention. It was a bulletin board. On the wall hung a yellow board filled with letters. He looked at it, thinking silently. This listed the rankings of all the intermediate classes, topped by Karmis Sisant, she a first-class noble. Specifically, Amy Karmis. He stood there stunned, his face full of disbelief. All the names here were talented like him, yet she was at the top. A desire sprang up and grew in his heart, wanted to be like that too, to start learning from scratch right here. Shirone's eyes sparkled with hope for the future, something urging him he must change his rank. Suddenly, a voice called from behind, "Hey, Amy, wait for me." The call made Shirone turn with curiosity, wondering, could this Amy be Amy Karmis, the number one in the intermediate class? Then something made him freeze as he looked at the red-haired girl. Her face reminded him of a dark and terrifying past. That was when he was grabbed by a group of thugs who were bullying others, and their leader was Amy. Back then, she was like a little dark demon, pointing right at him and demanding, where did this magic learner come from? Why would a commoner back to reality? Amy just brushed past him without a word. But suddenly her gaze flicked towards Shirone. He quickly turned his face away. Then a girl with orange hair ran up from behind, shouting loudly, "Amy, I told you to wait and go together, idiot!" Shirone lowered his head, silently begging, "Please don't pay attention to me, please." Then both girls passed by. Sariel looked back with interest and said, "Did you see that? The guy we just passed, he looks handsome. Is he a new student? But he doesn't really seem like one," she wondered. "Or maybe he's a transfer student." Amy replied, "Interesting. I think I might have met him before." Sariel suddenly said loudly, "What? You're interested in him? But you're not into guys." "Isn't that so?" she retorted. "No, I didn't mean that. I just feel like I know him very well." Hearing that, she giggled, then shouted, "Don't lie, you've already fallen for him, haven't you?" Amy firmly denied, "No, I never said that." She was Amy Karmis, the top student of the intermediate class, the most famous girl in that grade. She had rejected many confessions from seniors, juniors, and classmates, being the model student among all model students, but the only one who knew her dark past was trying to get accepted. Alpheus asked, "Are you cold?" Shirone shivered and replied, "No, this is the Magic Academy's third exam location, a building with ancient and solemn architecture." They both stepped inside, and Alpheus said, "Oh dear, it seems it's not over yet." Leaning towards Shirone, he said, "That's good. Look closely at what that child is doing." In the center of 3 circles full of magical characters is a brown-haired child, above whom are the judges. Alpheus explained to Shirone, "When you enter the spirit realm, you'll see different characters on the walls, and how you perceive them will help us understand the size, strength, flexibility, and direction of your spirit realm." He continued, "So just answer the professor's questions honestly." He replied, "Yes, sir," filled with excitement. It was truly fascinating. Thad, sitting above, asked, "So, Cammy, can you use magic?" The child answered, "Yes, sir." The boy demonstrated his ability. "I can lift objects onto the platform." Thad praised, "Ah, how cute." "Very good. Now try to enter the spirit realm." Cammy responded, "Yes, sir." The boy closed his eyes and announced, "I have entered." Thad quietly asked, "Which number is the farthest?" The boy replied, "6, sir." A professor smiled and asked again, "6?" Alpheus explained that 6 meant the diameter of the area was 6 meters. Shirone absorbed the knowledge, saying, "Understood." A brown-haired man asked next, "Which color seems the strongest?" Cammy answered, "Red, sir." "I think I'm entering a red world," the man noted. "Divergent type, like light and fire. That indicates this person tends to be very active. Then Alpheus explained, divergent type means his spirit realm is much stronger than his actual age. A female professor asked, do you see the giant tower? Cammy replied, it's to my left. It was Sheena's turn to ask, how do you feel about the temperature? The boy replied, it's a bit hot. I'm sweating. After the test was finished, Sheena smiled and praised him. Well done. Cammy, the child who was praised, happily ran off. Sheena sighed. This year's new students are quite impressive. Thad couldn't help but smile and added, yes, the student's domain size is 12 meters. It seems the quality of the students has really improved over the years. Finally, they made the note, good use of the domain, but stamina is a bit lacking. Then they called his name. Shirone Ariane. Alpheus patted his shoulder, smiled, and said, show them your skills. He smiled back and replied, yes, I will do my best. Thad, observing from above, stroked his chin and thought to himself, so this is the child who went through the special test the principal mentioned. Sheena, on the other hand, was thinking, what an interesting choice. But he's already quite old. He's using a noble's house, and isn't his family very well known? The paperwork stated that Shirone Ariane was 17 years old and a guest of a noble family. Shayna thought, it seems like his talent was just discovered a bit late. Shayna looked at him and thought to herself, his appearance is truly unique. But in this school, he'll be quickly forgotten. Thad then spoke up and asked, Shirone Ariane, can you use magic? He replied, no, I have never been taught. He replied, is that so? But even if you haven't studied, you should still be able to do a few things, right? Alpheus raised his eyebrows slightly. This was what they thought. Magic is an action that brings knowledge into one's mind. Noble children were taught many things, so they could naturally use magic. But that child had no knowledge at all. Thad said again, all right then, now step into the circle and enter your spirit realm. He asked, can you enter your spirit realm? Shirone hesitated and answered, I'll try. Thad exhaled a relieved breath. Lucky it doesn't seem to be a severe case of family abuse. He gradually entered his spirit realm. Blue light appeared around him. A beam of light descended onto his head, and the characters around began to move and float. He opened his eyes to feel that the scene astonished him, so this was how it was. Thad asked the usual questions. Now, Shirone, tell us the farthest number. He paused without replying. So Thad called again, Shirone? The brown-haired woman smiled and said, looks like he's embarrassed. Alpheus, standing outside, said, Shirone, answer quickly. We won't classify you yet. We're just trying to find the best way to educate you. He still hesitated. Then he explained his current situation. I see a number, but it's so long I can't read it. Thad looked puzzled. You can't read it? It's not based on sight, but on your perception. Shirone clarified. No, that's not what I mean. I can perceive it, but it's too long, and it's still getting longer. Thad sighed, thinking, really? Then he frowned and said, then start with the first numbers you can see. Shirone focused and slowly looked at the result. In his spirit realm, the number was extremely long. He looked at the numbers 3, 14, 100, and a string of digits behind, then summarized it into a number and answered 3, 14. Thad was startled. What? Sheena was very alarmed. Shirone, we don't include the numbers 3, 14 in that. Are you mistaken? He frowned and replied, is that so? But that's what I see. She pondered. Really? Of course. Some cases of pi would appear. That means the size of the area has exceeded the range we established. Could he really see as far as 30 meters? The brown-haired woman asked. So which color do you see as strongest? Shirone looked around and answered, blue, completely blue. Once again, the professors looked at each other in surprise. If it truly is blue, then isn't that the convergent type? But could his spirit realm really be that large? The convergent type has better durability than the size of the area, unlike the divergent type. Alpheus stood nearby, stunned and silent. I understand now why this person is so determined about this, but this isn't just a good talent. His eyes widened, sweat dripping from his forehead. They recorded the words convergent in his file, then added 2 hemispheres, The elderly professor asked, "How many numbers are floating around?" Shirone looked up inside his spirit realm, thinking, is he asking about this? No need to count one by one. As he could perceive it, there were many glowing dots inside. He decisively answered 867 numbers. Hearing this, the professor's face froze, stammering, 867? Then he shakily wrote on paper, density 86.7%. Alpheus outside remained silent, his face suddenly serious. This is dangerous. Sheena gently pushed up her glasses with a cautious look. She regained composure and continued the test. Shirone, how cold do you feel right now? He heard the question and answered, quite cold, to the point of numbness. She was not surprised and immediately wrote on the paper, as expected. Shayna noted in the overall assessment, convergent and defensive with superior durability. His spirit realm size is unusually large. The brown-haired woman smiled in praise. Very good. Now we need to hold a meeting to decide which classes you will enter. So, all new students, please wait outside. Shirone obeyed, turning to lead the other children outside. He went first, slowly pushing the door open and waiting for all the children to exit before closing it behind them. As soon as the door closed, the room inside buzzed with discussion. An interesting student. Exactly how can a 17-year-old student have a spirit realm with a diameter over 300? The density of the spirit realm increases with its size, but that student's density is as high as 86.7%. The elderly professor said, above all, that is pure concentration without using any enhancement skills. Is the kid a monk who has been training nonstop on a mountain or something? Suddenly, a remark from Thad silenced everyone. Could it be that he's lying? He smiled mockingly, thinking, a spirit realm with 90% density and a diameter of 30 meters, coming from a 17-year-old who doesn't even know magic sounds, unlikely. Could he have inflated the numbers before telling us? Shayna raised her voice, but Sir Tad seems to have forgotten. There's no reason for new students to lie. If they got into advanced classes that way, they wouldn't keep up with the lessons, let alone pass exams. How could a student be so clueless upon arrival? Above all, some teachers here seem to have forgotten that pi is displayed as an error code. Shirone now sat awkwardly smiling among the children. She continued, that's not something a simple student would say just to attract attention. Thad clicked his tongue in frustration. Suddenly, Alpheus stepped forward and asked, so where would be best to place him? I mean, Shirone. She stood up abruptly. Principal Shina Oliver, a level 6 mage, said, Class 6 studies the development of spirit realms and their theories, while Class 5 begins actual magic training, right? I believe this student's spirit realm is nearly complete. Therefore, I propose placing him in Class 5. The man behind firmly objected, I oppose that. This deeply angered her inwardly. Thad, also a level 6 mage, voiced his opinion. He's a 17-year-old who knows nothing about magic. This could cause trouble and make him arrogant if placed in an advanced class. Now, I think we should teach him from the basics, Sheena responded firmly. That may be true, but not every student is like him, Sir Thad. He angrily shouted, What? Then the two of them clashed verbally, shouting loudly. Honestly, she just wanted to put him in Class 5 because she managed that class and wanted that student, didn't she? Sheena replied, Is there a problem with wanting to teach such a talented student? A brown-haired professor said, Sir Thad is right. Even with great talent, he's still a young student. So why don't we teach him step by step from Class 10? The elderly professor beside them sighed wearily, thinking, in the end, those two are always like this. The brown-haired woman gently said, he might lose motivation if we send him to a basic class. Considering his age, what if we just postpone the placement and keep an eye on him? The elderly professor spoke up, I think Class 7 would be suitable. Class 7 is an advanced class that also includes basic lessons on the spirit realm. If that child is truly talented, skipping grades is also an option. Alpheus rubbed his chin and replied, as expected, your words are correct. Without hesitation, he decided that Shirone would be placed in Class 7. The Magic Academy operates a system of 10 classes based on evaluation. Students are assigned to one of 10 levels, which are further divided into 3 groups. Classes 10 to 8 are beginner levels, focusing on developing the spirit realm. Classes 7 to 4 are advanced, where students learn to use both magic and their spirit realm. Finally, the graduation classes from 3 to 1 undergo strict training to produce professional mages. The next morning, at the large and grand school named Alpheus, a Class 7 badge was pinned on the chest of a newly arrived young man. He attracted the attention of many female eyes who admired him whenever they saw him. Shirone carried a school bag in his hand, then slowly walked into the classroom under the watchful eyes of many people. The teacher announced, "Today, we have a new student in our class." The girls whispered and chatted continuously. He was placed directly into the intermediate class upon enrollment. He seems quite a bit older, but he's really handsome. Standing on the steps, he gave a gentle, radiant smile and introduced himself. "I'm Shirone Ariane, pleased to meet you." The whole class immediately erupted like a festival, with applause and cheerful chatter everywhere, mostly from the girls who warmly welcomed him. The teacher had asked for silence. Shirone felt very excited because his wish was about to come true. "Finally, I've arrived at the Magic Academy." Alpheus Magic Academy covers 75,425 square kilometers of mountainous land, including dormitories, with 33 buildings and 40 training centers. Although going outside is prohibited on non-weekend days, this is not inconvenient because most facilities are within the campus. Classes end at 5 o'clock, and any time afterward is free time, but students often go to the library, which is open 24 hours. With a system that connects students with similar interests to satisfy their desire to learn, all of this creates a prestigious environment. Shirone thought to himself that the classes would be difficult with many advanced subjects. This place was meant for nobles, those who had studied from a young age and endured long, hard training. Because of that, he faced many difficulties, but by using every possible method, he managed to keep up. Knowledge, following the chronological order of history, was deeply engraved in Shirone. Gradually, he began accumulating all the world's knowledge. One beautiful morning, the teacher announced, "Class will end here for today. Well done, everyone." As Shirone closed his book, he pondered. The afternoon class was the Spirit Realm practical session, but the schedule didn't list a location. Looking around the classroom, he felt a bit shy, unsure whom to ask. Fortunately, there were a few people his age nearby. Shirone quietly approached and asked, "Hello, do you know which training center we need to go to?" Maria was startled by the question and replied, "You're asking me?" He thought silently. "She seems shy. No wonder I feel comfortable." She answered, "You probably don't know yet. Today's practical class is at the Second Comprehensive Training Center." Shirone asked, "Comprehensive? Comprehensive what?" Maria explained, "All intermediate classes train together for 2 weeks. Today is the orientation session." Hearing that, he paused. Slightly comprehensive intermediate classes, could it be? The scene shifts to the Second Comprehensive Training Center, where many students are entering inside. The place is lively, filled with voices, laughter, and greetings. "Hello, senior. Thank you for last time." "Hello." "Senior, please come sit here," they say in unison. "Hello, Senior Amy." So that's why it's so lively. Siriel nearby is also joining in, waving hello to them. Shirone sat above, looking down, and silently marveled. Fame is really something. She's someone I'd rather not interact with if I could. Yet there are 2 comprehensive training sessions every week. Even so, if she started in the intermediate class, she'll soon move to the graduation class. Seniors and juniors chat actively but still follow strict rules. Shirone worriedly wondered, can I stay unnoticed here? At that moment, the special teacher for the intermediate spirit realm class, Atella Romi, a level 6 mage, appeared and said loudly, "Hello, everyone in the intermediate class. I'm Atella, and I will be responsible for your spirit realm class this year. She looked around once more and continued, surely there are students transferring classes at the start of this new year, right? Although our class is full of famous faces, today we have a new student joining the intermediate class. Those words made everyone look towards Shirone. Is the rumor true? Who is it? He could only force a smile, thinking, wait, this is dangerous. Atella added fuel to the fire. Shirone, will you stand up and greet everyone? He froze, stiff, but still forced himself to comply, swallowing hard to gather courage. Nearby, Amy and Siriel were also drawn to look at Shirone. He smiled and introduced himself. Hello, I'm Shirone Ariane, and I just started in class 7. Nice to meet you. Before he finished, the whole room erupted into applause, welcoming him. Standing there, he felt like he might faint and thought, I don't know anything anymore. Siriel excitedly said, Amy, that guy is he the one you saw yesterday? Seems his name is Shirone. She acted indifferent, but thought to herself, this is the first time I've heard his name. Who is he? He seems famous. I'm sure I should know people like that. Suddenly, a brown-haired girl spoke up. Does boy know him? According to my sources, the teachers are super focused on him, Siriel marveled. Really? The girl recounted, they said his stats were outstanding when they tested him during admissions. Siriel replied, oh my gosh, I like him even more now. I wonder which noble family he belongs to. That casual question made Amy freeze. Her eyes flared red, her hair flying wildly, as if she had recalled something shocking. It was a memory from the past, when she and a few others were caught in something like a whirlpool. At that time, she looked directly at a boy outside and questioned him, asking where he learned magic. How could a commoner? And that boy crying outside was none other than young Siriel. Back in the present, she trembled, sweat pouring down, a forced smile appearing on her face. Damn it. The Karmis family is famous for its bloodline of geniuses. Their red eyes are unique and passed down to each descendant. It allows the bearer to precisely remember every moment they see. An arrow shot true, hitting the bullseye. Another arrow flew and struck the bullseye again, 2 arrows perfectly lodged in the center. And that made all her studies feel meaningless. The archer was a red-haired girl. Although she hit the bullseye many times, she showed no joy. On the contrary, the steward standing beside her kept applauding and praising, excellent, my lady. That red-haired girl was the youngest daughter of the family, Amy, also the most talented among her siblings. Amy's father laughed heartily. My daughter. He placed a chess piece down and said, truly a descendant of the Karmis family. Amy fell silent, staring at the chessboard before her. The steward called out, my lady? Amy's father asked, what is it, Amy? Amy's face turned cold as she stood up and sighed in frustration. Annoyed, she turned and walked away, followed by a group of thugs. Amy seethed inwardly, I hate everything about this family. This family. This family. What does my ability have to do with this family? I can succeed without using this family name. She followed the gang of thugs, fighting everywhere. Amy thought to herself that she could do whatever she wanted. Watching the thugs brawl, Amy sat cross-legged, utterly bored. However, someone made Amy surprised and reconsider. She stared in shock at the thugs sprawled around her and a boy standing opposite. The boy was crying, tears streaming down his face. The one who changed Amy's mind was a low-class boy, damn it. On the way, Shirone bowed politely to everyone. Amy looked at the scene before her, her mouth twitching as she muttered, damn it. Suddenly, Siriel called out, Amy, Amy. The brown-haired girl beside her stammered, Sen, Senior. Both seemed confused. Amy startled and explained, I mean the rope. My rope is a bit uncomfortable. Amy thought to herself, I knew it memories seen through red eyes can never be wrong. Someone nearby asked, what are we even talking about? But Amy remained lost in her thoughts. I thought he was a noble. She looked at Shirone, but unexpectedly, he was actually a commoner. How did he get into this academy? Amy's body trembled. For her, that past was extremely embarrassing. She slapped her forehead. I want to die. Her eyes grew blurry. I cleaned up all the traces of that immature phase. There's no way he remembers those days, right? Amy recalled memories from 5 years ago when she squatted before a blond boy whose face was still blurred with tears. She covered her mouth, sneering, "A slave has no claws, right? Why don't we cut it out?" Later, she stood behind, blushing, covering her mouth, watching the thugs take off the boy's clothes. What did they do? Amy imagined Shirone mentioning her to others. "Senior Amy, she's not the person everyone thinks she is." Shirone waved her hand in her imagination. 5 years ago, she used to hang out with thugs in the alleys. Why would someone trusted by the professors like me lie? Just that. No, there's more. Shirone also whispered to everyone she's actually very interested in men. Listen, she even tried to take off all my clothes, and in Amy's imagination, the image appeared. Why don't we check it out? Later, she stood behind, blushing, covering her mouth, watching the thugs take action on the boy. What did they do? Amy imagined Shirone talking about her to others. "Senior Amy, she's not the person everyone thinks she is." Shirone waved his hand in his imagination. 5 years ago, she used to hang out with thugs in the back alleys. Why would someone like me who is trusted by the professors lie? Just that, no, there's more. Shirone also whispered to everyone, she's actually very interested in men. Listen, she even tried to strip me naked. Amy angrily tore the page of the book before her. She clenched her fist tightly. "No, never, absolutely must not let that happen. The rumor must be killed right here in this school." Meanwhile, Shirone kept focusing, feeling as if someone was watching him. The intermediate spirit realm professor, level 6 mage Romy Atella, stood on the podium and said, "Now everyone, what exactly is a spirit realm?" Someone answered, "It is the mental state of a mage." She nodded. "Yes, it is the awareness of a mage's mental state. Its initial formation is a sphere because that is the easiest shape to concentrate. The blue of the spirit realm reflected in Atella's eyes. Then, through practical training, we can perceive and transform the spirit realm as we wish." Atella unfolded her spirit realm and said, "I will show you the spirit image." Shirone gasped. "I can see it!" He focused intently on the blue spirit image before him. "I can see the professor's spirit image with my own eyes," he thought. The spirit image's range was 10 meters, Atella explained. "This is the basic shape of the spirit realm, a sphere. As I said, in practice, the spherical form is rarely used." She snapped her fingers, and a target board appeared floating in midair. She said, "I will use magic to aim at the target." Atella stood within her spirit realm, which had a 10-meter radius, but the target was 20 meters away. She will use a fireball, a fire element magic. Shirone excitedly covered his mouth. "Finally, I can see someone using magic." A small fireball appeared on Atella's fingertip. She said, "First, I will create a small flame." Atella controlled the small fireball and said, "Let's see if I can shoot it accurately." The fireball darted forward, carrying the flame straight toward the target. However, when it reached the edge of the spirit realm, the flame immediately extinguished. Below, all the students who had been sitting watched with wide eyes and open mouths as the flame vanished. Atella smiled and explained, "As you have seen, most magic cannot leave the spirit realm, so magic can only maintain its form within the spirit realm." Atella leaned slightly forward, extending her hand, and continued, "However, if we expand the spirit realm," Atella's spherical spirit realm instantly transformed into a straight line, straight toward the target like this. Atella's small flame immediately shattered the target. She told the students below, "See, I can touch it." Surprised cheers of admiration echoed along the corridor. Older students whispered among themselves, "Look at the amazed faces of those 7th graders, so cute." Shirone and his classmates applauded Atella's impressive demonstration. He thought warmly, "I didn't know it was possible to do that. Can you really change the shape of the spirit realm?" Then Atella continued, "But this method has a weakness." The students' faces showed slight disappointment. A male student asked, "Isn't that the right way?" Atella opened a projection screen beside her and pointed at it. Changing the shape of the spirit realm requires intense concentration. In real combat, when your opponent can use every trick to attack you, constantly changing shapes is not the right choice. Atella pointed to the blue screen displaying information about spirit realms and explained, so, people have divided spirit realm shapes into 4 main types: defensive, offensive, targeting, and redirection. These are the 4 primary forms. She continued, let's start with the defensive type. The defensive form is a polygonal shape that helps the spirit realm block most attacks. Atella's spirit realm immediately transformed into a polygon, enclosing her inside. She said, the more faces in contact, the higher the defensive effectiveness. Atella waved her hand again to change the shape to a star, also known as the offensive type. Based on this shape, it helps the user easily locate targets. The brightest points indicate the directions aimed at the most targets. Atella's spirit realm shape changed once again as she continued her lecture, moving on to the targeting form. Extremely effective in long-range combat, she explained. However, it's not efficient against fast-moving targets. Theoretically, yes, but in practice, the distance between the points and the center is quite large, making it hard to rotate. Atella's tone was steady as she said, the key to using this form is how fast you can rotate it. The students murmured among themselves. She can even use that technique without blinking. Do you think we could do that? Unlike the others, Shirone was deep in thought. With that method, you could use your spirit realm effectively within a 10-meter range in real combat. Atella then introduced the final form, redirection. It's not very popular because even 5th grade students struggle to master it. Atella said, but I will give you an example. Just then, a student behind Shirone spoke up. If we can do that, does it mean we can move up to higher classes? In 8th grade, I got a perfect score in spirit realm. It was easy. Before she could finish, the transformation below silenced her. The students gaped in shock, and Shirone was startled too. The noisy students exclaimed, spirit realm? Below, the blue sphere was gradually separating from Atella. Everyone shouted loudly, separating from the professor's body? Shirone was so excited he wanted to stand up. I don't understand. Spirit realm is the mental state of a mage. How can it separate from the body? Tella's spirit realm gradually transformed into a stream. Shirone was curious. I wonder what's inside it, the center of that spirit realm. Atella stood below, surrounded by streams of spirit realm shaped around her. She said, the redirection form is extremely difficult to use, so difficult that even seasoned mages struggle with it. But its strength lies in the fact that the mage is not the center of the spirit realm, so there are no movement restrictions. Therefore, targeting with instantaneous spells is no longer theoretical, as its range is unlimited. Instantaneous spells mean the mage embeds the magic within the redirection form, and it activates automatically upon reaching the target. Hearing Atella's words, the students exclaimed in surprise. They whispered among themselves, how can the professor do that? She acts as calmly as if she's just breathing. Just entering the spirit realm is already difficult enough. The girl behind Shirone replied, she's on a whole different level, level 6 mage. Shirone looked stunned, his fierce expression hiding extraordinary talent. Atella adjusted her glasses and said, you'd be disappointed if I skipped practice on the first lesson, right? The top scorer in the fast magic targeting test. Before she finished, the students below buzzed excitedly, eager to start practicing. Atella called out, Amy Karmis from class 4, come on up. We'll start with the student representative. The girl sitting next to Siriel said, she's amazing, always number 1 in class. Siriel smiled at Amy. Here we go again. Amy really is a star. The boys practically adore her at first sight. Turning to look at her, Siriel saw Amy's face utterly lost and distressed. Siriel stammered to finish her sentence. Right, Amy? Amy wiped sweat from her face. I don't want to be the center of attention right now. The first of the 4 spirit realm forms, the targeting form, has the advantage of long attack range. However, it's disadvantageous against fast moving and multiple targets. If used by someone with excellent focus and control of their spirit realm at high speed, boom, Boom, two explosions rang out in quick succession. Amy raised her hand, launching several fireballs toward the target. Then that weakness completely disappears, turning it into an impenetrable fortress against distant enemies. Students in the seats admired. No wonder it's Senior Amy. She's amazing. Usually, those competing in fast magic casting switch among the four forms. But Senior Amy always wins first place, despite only using the targeting form. A classmate sitting near Shirone muttered, "I wonder if I could become a mage like that." Shirone watched in awe. Even as an amateur, he had to admit she was incredible. He couldn't take his eyes off Amy's performance, the fireballs continuously shattering the targets. Not only did she constantly shift her spirit realm while standing still, but she also attacked every target swept by her spirit realm. Amy commanded the arena like a true master, even showcasing another technique. Shirone admired her, noting how her face held just a hint of expression, every gesture exuding elegance and nobility. Applause rang out. Amazing. The student behind Shirone said, "If I could date a senior like her, school life would be completely different." His companion laughed mockingly. "Keep dreaming. She doesn't care about anyone. Don't forget she's from the Karmis family." Shirone listened to their chatter and thought to himself, "I can see why the boys go crazy over her. Not only is she a high-ranking noble, but she also has everything." Shirone shifted his gaze downward to Amy below a perfect person. So why did she hang out with those street thugs? Below, Amy finished her demonstration, bowed, and quickly cast a finishing spell, achieving a level 9 score with a time of 205 seconds. Applause erupted all around. Amy stood still for a moment, then lifted her head, her green eyes staring intently in one direction. Shirone felt that gaze and was startled. Students nearby whispered, "What? What's that? Senior Amy?" "No way," someone loudly said. "She just looked at the new student, didn't she?" Amy was jolted awake by the shout and immediately turned her back to return to her seat. Damn it, why is she staring at that brat for no reason? Amy was frustrated but couldn't help feeling uneasy. However, at least she confirmed one thing. People around whispered, "Do they know each other?" "No way. He just enrolled today." Shirone paled, thinking, "I understand now." And not only Shirone, Amy shared the same thought. Amy thought, "He remembers me," and Shirone realized, "She remembers me." Amy pondered, "If he spreads rumors about my past, it will be trouble." Surely she needed to silence him, right? After a moment, she shook her head. "No, calm down. I'm the top student here. A few random words from someone like him, how could anyone believe that so easily? If I'm careless, it will only make things worse." Siriel ran over to check on Amy. "Amy, what happened in the spirit realm just now? Your face is all red." Amy quickly shook her head and rubbed her face. "Nothing. It's nothing." Then the practice session was divided by class and the students moved downstairs. Ethan Law said, "Class 7 will start with the defensive form. You need to master defense first before anything else." She walked around, instructing the students. Mages must maintain focus to survive on the battlefield. Shirone stood alone, eyes closed, concentrating. The trick is to imagine shrinking and condensing your consciousness. In Shirone's mind, he began shaping a spirit realm unique to himself. First, condense the spirit realm and form a solid mass, then build a frame to prevent collapse. Just as Shirone thought, "I've succeeded," he suddenly startled. Looking at the spirit image before him, he thought, "No, until it's fully realized, I can't be sure. It would be easier if I could see the spirit realm within the spirit image." Shirone approached Atella and asked, "Miss, may I use the spirit image?" She was surprised. "Huh? The spirit image?" Atella glanced around and said, "Actually, only the upperclassmen have been allowed to use it so far." Shirone followed her gaze, thinking, "There's no need to care about others when learning magic." He reflected that opportunities to truly improve don't come often. Then Atella turned back, smiling, and said, "It seems no one is using it now. All right, go ahead." She wondered silently if having the student representative demonstrate was a bit much. The crowd around buzzed excitedly. "A new student? Nice. So cute. Shirone nudged Amy and said, Amy, look. Shirone's next words made Amy choke on her drink. That student just entered the spirit image. Amy turned sharply and shouted, startling Shirone, what the hell is he doing? What can a 7th grader even do? Shirone whispered, Amy, you're acting weird today. What's going on? I'm starting to get scared. Everyone's attention focused on the spirit image. Shirone stood alone inside it. On the board appeared the words, spirit image range 0 meters. Shirone stared straight ahead. He had finally seen it. A blue sphere enveloped Shirone. He saw it with his own eyes. My spirit realm, the students nearby gasped in shock. How can it be that size? The spirit image range on the display kept changing. Shirone looked up, recalling if they had told him his spirit realm size during the entrance exam. If the teacher heard this, he would surely say, no, we couldn't even measure it. Shirone raised both hands high. Then how much bigger can it get? As the spirit realm grew larger, Shirone panicked, shouting, stop. The display showed the words, spirit image range 20 meters. The 5th grade student stammered in amazement. Is he really in class 7? Isn't the average for class 7 only 13 meters? The chatter buzzed nonstop. Are you sure he's not purposely making holes in it? If so, the density would drop to the level of a balloon. Shirone was sweating profusely. Enough! Thank goodness. I'm getting too much attention. Now it was time for the defensive form. Just as he was about to shift his spirit realm, Shirone suddenly felt an itch. What's this? He looked at the spirit realm before him. No, it can't be rising. It's actually shrinking. But everything was fine during practice earlier. Amy, standing in the class 4 area, widened her eyes and said, no way it succeeds on the very first practical lesson, right? Shirone wondered, where exactly did I go wrong? Am I scared just because I saw it with my own eyes? No, his concentration couldn't be affected by something like that. Shirone focused his thoughts. I need to find the reason. What's the difference between inside and outside the spirit image? There must be something. Nothing sparked like a drop disturbing the calm surface of a lake in Shirone's mind until suddenly, I understand. He recalled Atella standing inside the spirit image earlier. I was mistaken because Professor Itella demonstrated so effortlessly, Shirone thought. If changing my spirit realm requires focus, then the intention to shrink, it also uses that same focus. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, he considered that his idea of shrinking the spirit realm might be causing the problem. He opened his eyes wide, concentrated, and said, then I'll just keep it at a normal size. As soon as he spoke, his spirit realm's range began expanding uncontrollably. The students around gasped. What? It's getting even bigger? Shirone's spirit realm grew larger and larger, his gaze filled with determination. The number on the spirit realm range display kept climbing. Amy's lips twitched as she muttered, what the hell? The entire hall was nearly engulfed in blue. All the students standing around had to look up, mouths agape. So big. The number on the spirit image display reached 41 meters, and the entire hall erupted. So big. Looking at the spirit realm before them, someone shouted in shock, what the hell is this? What kind of spirit realm gets this big? Shirone raised both hands, focusing his mind. Now I don't need to tilt it to one side. He looked at his hands and said, I'll shrink everything all at once. Shirone's spirit realm immediately contracted, forming solid planes. The older students marveled. That new student is incredible. They watched Shirone standing inside his spirit realm as the crowd buzzed excitedly. Success on the very first. Even Shirone was surprised by his own spirit realm. He reached out to touch it, feeling as if he were inside a gemstone. Itella stood nearby, adjusting her glasses, silently thinking, he truly has potential far beyond what I imagined. Although the superior convergent nature of the defensive form helped him, succeeding on the very first day is truly astonishing. I've heard he even surprised the teachers during the entrance exam, Itella thought quietly. Shirone turned to Amy and said, it seems the rumors about you catching the attention of all the teachers are true, huh? What do you think, Amy? Amy's expression was terrifying, and Siriel looked alarmed. Amy thought, how could I forget? Thoughts about the past involving Shirone keep swirling in my mind. That brat is the source of my humiliation. He managed to come all this way. Someone must be supporting him behind the scenes. She stared intently at Shirone in the spirit image, her heart filled with conflict and deep contemplation. Sooner or later, he'll close the gap between classes, and his fame will only grow, Amy resolved. Change of plan, I have to secretly get close to him. Even Professor Atella was surprised. He's especially skilled in versatility, as if he spent a lifetime training on a mountain, Shirone said. Professor, its size has shrunk quite a bit, Atella nodded. Yes, the size decreases, but the hardness of the spirit realm increases. At this hardness level, most physical impacts won't be able to break your spirit realm. Moreover, hardness also gives you some resistance against mental attack magic. After explaining, Atella continued, Good, you can now dispel your spirit realm. The spirit realm around Shirone gradually vanished. He said, Thank you, Professor. At that moment, the cheers in the hall exploded. Students from various classes continuously praised Shirone. Well done, new student. Congratulations. Only then did Shirone startle, thinking, Why is everyone looking at me? He shyly thanked them and quickly dashed away from the center stage. Thursday, thank you, everyone. Atella smiled at Shirone, quietly thinking, I understand his insight in perfecting the defensive form. He has strong convergent ability and an unusually large spirit realm, so it makes sense he succeeded with that form. She noticed Shirone's shy expression under the spotlight and thought, I need to keep an eye on him. At that moment, countless eyes were fixed on Shirone, but not all were the same. A group discussed him. Looks like he'll be joining our class soon, right? That talent is truly amazing. But there were also competitive glances. Or a few girls marveled, Impressive. It's only the first day, and already their eyes clearly filled with admiration and affection. Alongside were feelings of jealousy and envy. And finally, someone standing in the back row, Amy was, staring at Shirone with a frightening gaze. The next day at the academy, another pair of eyes appeared. A woman with purple hair tied up was about to enter, her curious gaze fixed on Shirone as the door was pulled open. The classroom immediately buzzed upon seeing the newcomer, Professor Shina. Professor, please tell us about your first love, someone said. Shirone also saw the person who just entered. Her sharp, serious eyes scanning down the classroom stirred the students into a commotion. Shirone recognized her. That was the formidable professor who gave the lecture during the entrance exam, Sheena Oliver. Shirone didn't know it yet, but she was the professor in charge of Class 5. The other students erupted with excitement. Amazing. Who would have thought we, Class 7, get to attend her lecture? But why would someone like her bother teaching a Class 7? The more Sheena thought about it, the more annoyed she became. Professor Thad is such a pain. If he places a talent like Shirone in Class 5, she'll surely find a way to catch up with the others. Sheena adjusted her glasses. She came to this class because she wanted to personally teach Shirone. Sheena thought silently, I will help him advance as quickly as possible, and he must become a student of my class. Shirone was startled, his eyes fixed forward. He thought to himself, I think she just looked at me, probably overthinking. A classmate sitting in front of Shirone loudly asked, This is the first lesson, so could you tell us a story? Are you dating Professor Thad? A student asked innocently. Sheena said nothing, but her furrowed brow revealed disgust. She raised her hand, and a small block of ice instantly appeared in her palm. The ice was crystal clear. Sheena asked the class, Can anyone explain the theory behind this magic? The glass window beside Shirone fogged with frost from the cold. Her voice remained steady. What is cold air? Frost crystals had also formed on the classroom ceiling due to the low temperature. Sheena continued, So, what is the process of freezing? The students shivered, hugging themselves and stammering, Professor, it's so cold, Sheena calmly explained. The reason you feel cold is because you lack energy. She manipulated the small ice block in her hand and walked down through the classroom. The term energy doesn't usually exist in this world, so temperature can only rise infinitely, but cannot drop infinitely. The block of ice in Shayna's hand suddenly shattered. She explained, the state when energy reaches 0 degrees is called absolute zero. Sheena smiled. If I mix a bit of energy from this room, I can easily create things like this ice sample. But if I break it into tiny pieces and create a convection current, what would happen? The ice fragments fell to the floor. She answered her own question. The answer is, I can generate such cold that it can kill a person, just as you have experienced. The students were both scared and speechless, thinking, are we about to die? Shayna turned toward the podium. So the question here is, how can a mage absorb that energy? She took the chalk, wrote on the board, and looked down at the class, continuing. No tools or device show can they activate magic like that. Shirone focused intently on Sheena. She drew a circle on the board representing the spirit realm and the mage, then said, a mage controls the world within the range of their spirit realm. Naturally, that range is limited, but once inside, that mage becomes a god. Sheena's voice was steady. And if you want to affect the senses, it can create light, sense, or even physical sensations. This is the mage's unique sense, granting them the special ability to dominate reality, sometimes even divine power like this. She paused, tapping the chalk against the board, then asked, what if they don't know what abilities they have? Raising her tone, she continued, for a mage to activate magic, they must satisfy certain condition, somniscience, and omnipotence. The 7th grade students below listened intently, mouths agape, hanging on Shayna's every word. Mages activate magic based on their omniscience and omnipotence. No matter how powerful you are, without knowledge, you cannot activate magic. Shayna's words awakened Shirone. That's why mages, besides having special senses, still study the world like scholars. Shirone also realized why he couldn't use magic. He recalled how he once protected himself and thought, I had no concept of omniscience, so I only trained my omnipotence. Sheena continued, you will study countless subjects at this school. The spirit realm is only half of what creates magic. Sheena smiled, without diligence, you can never become a true mage. After the introduction, Sheena began today's lesson. Now, let's start basic chemistry. Yes, Professor. Shirone made a firm resolution. I can do this. His eyes seemed to say, I will become a mage. Evening fell outside the academy grounds as some girls chatted. Are you going to the library today? Of course, there's a test coming up. They even discussed studying at the dining table. Another student replied, there are some things I need to create first. Students moved busily across the campus. After classes ended, most students headed to the library or joined study groups. Shirone hugged his bag and walked forward, thinking, I come to the library every day, and that's how I manage to keep up with the noble students. He looked up at the sky, feeling his sleep time shrink. He was exhausted. Reflecting for a moment, Shirone lifted his spirits. Learning magic made him feel relieved because his dream was gradually coming true. He quickened his pace, wondering if anyone had invented a spell that lets people skip sleep. Suddenly, his feet lifted off the ground. Why is my body getting lighter? Shirone gasped, realizing he was flying. What theme am I flying? He glanced behind and saw someone grabbing his collar. What the heck is going on? Shirone was stunned. Someone was carrying him through the air like a hawk swooping on prey. Deep in the forest, with a thud, Shirone was thrown to the ground. Pain brought tears to his eyes as he sat up and looked at the person before him. Shirone panicked it was a head of red hair. Amy Karmis. Shirone broke out in a sweat thinking, I expected to face her eventually, but I never imagined she'd appear so suddenly. He hesitated. Is she really still the same kid from 5 years ago? At that moment, Amy spoke, her expression sharp. She said, so you do remember who I am? Shirone asked. What? A small flame ignited at Amy's fingertip, bursting fiercely before Shirone. Amy smiled menacingly. That's right. Maybe I should settle everything right here and now. Old memories replayed like a film as Shirone braced himself against the relentless attacks. Someone shouted, hey, stop. A thug looking at Amy squatting before Shirone said, Miss is gonna kill that kid. Amy recalled that day she had initially planned to take the boy home, but the look on his crying face made her think, I want to watch a little longer. The blazing flames were under Amy's control, she thought. But now, wrong move. Amy narrowed her eyes. That bastard. Shirone sat up straight and looked at Amy. His gaze made her doubt. Is he really that kid from 5 years ago? Shirone sighed and replied, Of course I remember. He continued, Back then, you ordered those criminals to forcibly strip me. According to Shirone, Amy also recalled that past. At that moment, she covered her mouth and laughed. Well then, why don't we just confirm it? Amy loudly interrupted Shirone. Stop! You surely remember it very well. She began to argue. It's not like that, right? It's actually a misunderstanding, not your memory, but a serious misunderstanding, see? Shirone wanted to say, what? But Amy cut him off. You'll see. Amy blushed and hesitated. I'm not a promiscuous woman. Shirone couldn't keep up with her thoughts. Huh? Amy shouted, Those thugs tried to strip you on their own. I never ordered that. Then she hurriedly added, Wait, didn't I hear you say you wanted to see it? Or something like that. No, that's not it either anyway. Amy insisted from the start I wasn't interested in men. Shirone muttered softly. No way. She cornered me just to say that? Amy froze, her inner voice screaming, Of course not. But why am I standing here making excuses? Shirone realized something was she worried he might spread rumors around school about her bad reputation. Both of them were in an awkward situation. It really was troublesome. Shirone stood up. You just need to say sorry, isn't that right? Amy stepped back. What? Shirone sighed. I understand that it's a memory you want to forget, but anyway, you're one of the top students in the intermediate class, and you're very popular, but what's happened can't be changed. Shirone spoke calmly. So, instead of making excuses, wouldn't it be better to just apologize and end it? I think that would be the right thing to do. Amy froze. Apologize? Suddenly, Amy seemed to have an epiphany. Wait, think clearly, Amy. Her eyes showed panic. This guy is too smooth with his words. In her mind, a chessboard appeared. He's saying all the right things to make me feel embarrassed and then using it to gain the upper hand for himself. How dare he challenge me? He must think I'm weak and easy to manipulate, Amy thought to herself. At times like this, would I really open my mouth and apologize? Listen here, commoner. Amy asked Shirone, what do I get if I apologize to you? Shirone couldn't believe his ears. What did you say? Amy stroked her chin. What I mean is, even if I apologize, there's no reason to believe that you'll just accept my apology. Amy continued, you're still stabbing me in the back, aren't you? There's no trust between us, is there? She nodded. If I just apologize, it would mean I'm admitting to being wrong in the past. Isn't that just me taking all the blame in the end? Shirone asked her, do you really need to gain something from an apology? An apology is the basic courtesy to someone you've wronged, not something you do to gain an advantage. Amy's loud laugh interrupted Shirone's words. Seems like you don't understand how the world works. She thought to herself, another attack using moral reasoning. I get it now. Amy evaluated the situation in her mind and thought, I'll turn the tables right here, right now. She continued, if I don't gain something from it, I have no reason to waste my time. I didn't expect you to prattle on about that stuff to try to look good in front of me. Her words left Shirone speechless. It seems like the moment I apologize, I'll still never be able to find peace at the Magic Academy. Shirone felt Amy forcing him to open his eyes. He thought, what the hell is this? It seemed the model student act was just for show. Her true, vile nature was still there. Amy sighed, thinking to herself, I'm about to win. Should I add one more thing? She asked Shirone. Do you know what the scariest thing in the Magic Academy is? Shirone looked confused. She spoke cryptically, it's the upperclassmen. Amy's next words felt like a heavy weight pressing down on Shirone's shoulders. If an upperclassman looks down on you, not only will all the senior students become your enemies, but your classmates will too. And of course, if it's revealed that you're a commoner, The chances of you being expelled from the academy are high, Shirone asked loudly. Are you worried I'll spread rumors to the point of getting myself expelled? She covered her mouth and smiled. Of course, not immediately. I'm just saying I'll wait and see how you behave. I'll test how tight-lipped you can be, Shirone asked. What do you mean? She commanded, from now on, bring me coffee every day. I'll evaluate your trustworthiness through these little tasks. Shirone asked loudly. Why should I do that? Amy approached him. I heard you were given special treatment to get in here. For a commoner to make it this far, it must have been really difficult. Wouldn't it be a shame if you got expelled? Shirone agreed. Fine. If you think proving my trustworthiness through these little tasks is enough, then I'll do it. Amy put on her hooded cloak. Good choice. Behave well, after all. Your future depends on it. A moment later, her expression turned menacing as she threatened Shirone. If you dare report this to the teachers, I'll make sure you regret it. With that, she leapt 2 to 3 times into the air and disappeared, like a whirlwind blowing past Shirone.